Hello and welcome. It is with much trepidation and a whole lot of salt that I have decided to bring this bonus buffer mixing video to you. I would like this to be a 50% mixing guide, 50% discussion of the use of guanidine salts in synthetic biology. If you thought the neutralization and PB buffers were nasty, consider adding cyanide into the mix. Now you got buffer QG. While it is excellent for the purification of DNA from agarose gels, the question is it worth the risk of continual exposure? Let's talk about it. The recipe for this buffer can be found at openwetware.org, and while I got this protocol from Dr. Nicholas Coleman, he too shares my concerns about the overall safety of guanidine thiocyanate. This buffer is used in the gel extraction protocol for dissolving DNA still locked in a gel after being separated using electrophoresis chromatography. After being incubated with the gel in the heat block, the QG buffer also facilitates the binding of DNA to the silica column. While some protocols promise that PB buffer can be used in the place of QG, I have been unable to replicate these results in my own lab, leading me to source out some guanidine thiocyanate for this series. This will allow me to use it as a positive control during experiments to compare the efficacy of safer buffers that could potentially perform the same role. If you are aware of one such buffer, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to talk about the safety now, and you'll see why I feel so strongly about the need to replace this buffer. Guanidine is already the nastiest thing that we work with, but this is guanidine and cyanide. I'm not a great chemist, but I am aware that occasionally you can combine two dangerous things and get a safer thing, such as a strong acid plus a strong base. But this is not one of those times. Chatting to my chemistry expert Kirkby, he told me, "That stuff will melt right through your skin, right to the bone." And looking at this MSDS, he does not appear to be wrong. Find a well-ventilated area to do your mixing, and absolutely wear eye and face protection alongside your lab coat and gloves. Be sure you know how to take your gloves off without touching the outside of them with your skin, and use nitrile gloves. I really feel the need to specify a glove type, but the MSDS of Merck specifies nitrile gloves and recommends you use a proper respirator at all times. Absolutely do not mix this buffer if you do not have an emergency shower and eye wash handy. Have a friend nearby, but not actually in the same room, to call an ambulance or the poison center if something goes drastically wrong. While I was certain I didn't get even a speck of dust on me during the film of this video, I still took 2 showers after getting home. This stuff gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I am not afraid to tell you. Let's find a safe equivalent for this protocol as soon as possible so I do not have to mix this buffer again. Right, let's get started with the mixing. But before we start playing with any guanidine salts, we're going to mix up a 1 molar buffered solution of tris chloride. This is actually an order of operations that would have worked for our mini prep buffers, but since it adds extra steps, we generally stick to mixing the buffer within our final volume. When working with guanidine thiocyanate, however, I feel no compunctions about a slower process that will reduce my exposure to this chemical. We'll start with about 6 ml of sterile autoclaved water, to which we'll add 1.211 grams of tris base. Taking out our pH meter, we'll use some diluted hydrochloric acid to bring the pH down to 6.6. Top the final volume up to 10 ml and send the buffer solution down to the autoclave for 20 minutes on the liquid cycle. Okay, here comes the part where I risk it all just to purify bands from my agarose gels. Did I mention that this is going to be a 5.5 molar solution? So not only are we going to be handling guanidine thiocyanate, but we're going to be handling a lot of it. I'm only going to be mixing 50 ml in this demonstration, but I'll include the conversion from 1 litre in case any masochists out there feel like making a large batch of this stuff. We're going to be using a borrowed heated stirrer for this demonstration, as the dissolution is quite endothermic. Add no more than 20 ml of sterile water to your beaker. It'll seem like a paltry amount when compared to the huge pile of salt you're about to weigh out, but keep that maximum volume in mind. Weigh out 32.494 grams of guanidine thiocyanate salt. I'd recommend you do this in 2 parts. It's a large quantity of salt to carry from the scale to your beaker. Turn on the heated stirrer to about 250 RPM and 50 degrees Celsius, and then gently add your salt to the beaker of water. The salt may take a while to dissolve. While it does, find your tube of 1 molar buffered tris chloride. We'll add 1 ml of buffered tris chloride to our solution while the salt dissolves, and once everything is in the solution, top up your final volume with autoclaved, purified water, and then add it to your stock bottle. Store this buffer in the fridge as much as possible. It does seem to lose efficacy relatively quickly. Keep an eye out for a white precipitate indicating that it is balked. I'm unsure whether trying to get the precipitate to redissolve is an effective way to extend the lifetime of this buffer, but I do plan to investigate this in the future. However, what would be an even better outcome would be if you can help me discover a replacement for guanidine thiocyanate in this protocol. It doesn't necessarily need to be non-toxic. In fact, a non-toxic chaotropic agent may be a misnomer. It does, however, have to be just a teeny bit safer than this nightmare salt. Thanks so much for watching. I'd like to salute Dr. Nicholas Coleman and OpenWetWare.org for helping me deduce the chemical recipe for this buffer from the scattered clues on the internet. I hope I've managed to convey a dire enough warning about buffer QG that you'll feel the proper degree of fearful respect when mixing the buffer or purifying your gels. But most of all, I hope that we can find such an effective chaotropic replacement that guanidine salts can be condemned to the dustbin of history where they belong.